Every time I open my...
You want to start recording over there. Yep.
Every time I open up my internet browser and look at my tabs, I laugh at the one that says "bore taint" that you sent me.
All right. And we're live.
And we're live. Bore taint. All right, so let me share this, and then we can get started.
Oh yeah, I want to share this too.
It was for the next Wheel of Wikipedia entry for bore taint. I haven't looked at it yet because I wonder if it's going to be less funny when I know what it is, because right now it's just so pure.
Yeah, don't read it yet.
Okay.
I imagine that'd be a really good Tourette's word to yell out.
Bore taint.
Bore taint!
We can get it started. All right. You guys ready? Talk about this movie.
It should resume shortly. We had one like... I think we're back.
Do we have to reshare the link, or will it?
I think it fixed...
It just fixes
It just
the
resumed.
Oh, that was an almost disaster.
Sorry, folks, we're back.
Sorry, folks, we're
Sorry,
back.
we're back.
All right, are you ready?
Yes.
It's when Harry met Sally, met the man in black. We watched The Last Innocent Man, which means it's time for another Portland at the Movies.
In a world, in a time, in a land of eternal beauty, all that stands between a city and a disaster. In a city where anything can happen. If you thought you had seen it all.
Guess you lost, Detective. People of Portland lost.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Portland at the Movies. I am one of your hosts, Todd Werkhoven, and with me as always is Mark Middleton. How are you, Mark?
I'm fantastic.
Oh, good. And joining us as always is Brian, the Unipiper kid. How are you, Brian?
Hey, Todd, I'm doing pretty well.
Good, good. So you are responsible for us watching The Last Innocent Man. This was your pick.
Yeah.
Last month. So I guess
you say pick like I knew what we were getting into going in.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Why did you do this to us?
Why?
I guess is the question I'm getting at.
Okay, so in the list of Portland movies, this was a relatively recent find. This is not something I'd been sitting on. This was like an impulse, I just pulled the trigger.
Okay.
I found it and I was like, wow, Ed Harris in Portland and 1987, HBO, sure.
And the poster is pretty great. It's that
And pretty much,
beautiful painting.
The poster is what... Wow,
the Drew Struzan-esque painting that is the cover of The Last Innocent Man.
Totally, it would have made like a really cool VHS box art cover.
Totally.
And that's actually what it was when this movie was released overseas. It got that cool box art. We just here in the States, we just got some really lame like Ed Harris 1987 Photoshop.
So do you know if this was? Oh, I did see that cover when I did a Google image search for this. That bad cover. Was this something that aired on HBO? Was it direct to video?
No, it was produced by and for HBO, and it premiered in 1987. And it was one of their first, I believe, original movies.
Interesting.
And it got a really good review and write-up in the New York Times.
Really?
It did.
What did it say? How does one praise this movie?
I think primarily it praised the acting, which I can't fault too much. It was Ed Harris is solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark's gonna...
Mark's making better use of his time by doing something else completely uninvolved with The Last Innocent Man.
Well, let's talk to Mark about something that maybe he cares about. How have you been, Mark? What have you been up to?
I've been really well. So when I was watching this, I knew nothing going into it, and I like having the screen open, watching it while I take notes, so I can follow along of what the character names are and like what they're doing and everything. And there's a lot going on this movie, but simultaneously not a lot. It was a lot of activity, pushing pencils around.
I think I took the fewest amount of notes for this movie of any movie we've watched.
This was pretty close to being the fewest amount of notes. When I watched it, I watch all these dumb movies twice for this podcast. I watched them the first time and I just let it wash over me because if I get distracted with like, well, what's going to happen? And like, the story maybe will tell me and I don't want to. So I watch it and then I'll go back and take notes on it. And when I watched it the first time, the feeling I got was like when you're at home and someone else is at home watching a movie in another room and you walk in, you're doing stuff, you're cleaning up or whatever. And every once in a while you'll walk in there and you'll kind of see it. And like in your brain, you can kind of follow the story, even though you're missing like 15, 20-minute chunks of it. This movie felt like that. Like it moved so fast, like right, immediately after a guy gets murdered, and we'll get into that, like suddenly the trial started and like suddenly this and like suddenly that. And it just felt like
it was an extremely straightforward plot and story.
Yeah.
Like we could actually sum up the plot of this movie, I think, in one sentence.
Ooh, yeah. Why don't you try that as I watch?
Did I set myself up for that one? Damn. Okay.
So yeah, what is the basic story? What is The Last Innocent Man?
Okay. Ed Harris is a defense attorney who takes a case.
Would you call him a hotshot defense attorney?
Yes, I would. Okay. Yes, he's a. Somewhere they called him the Iceman.
Oh, I missed that.
I don't remember where I read that, but somewhere I did. Anyways, he has a reputation where I'm already more than one sentence, but I'll just keep going. He has a reputation for getting the guilty man set free. Defending the worst scum out there, obviously guilty, and instituting just enough reasonable doubt to get them off the hook. And he gets involved with the wife of somebody that he is defending, and then all the implications that come with that.
Sure, yeah. I suppose, Mark, would you agree with that too? I guess that's what happens in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it tries to have a really clever twist, and yeah, but
it is, yeah, and that's the kind of the feeling the whole thing is like, you watched a movie, you can't really remember what it was about. Like I watched this movie twice, and until 5 minutes before this podcast, I had no idea the main character's name was Sally.
As Mark so graciously informed us.
Yes, that their names are Harry and Sally. I had no idea that was the case. I kept calling her Lady in my notes. I did notice though so the movie opens with Ed Harris, whose name is Harry Nash,
which sounds disgusting.
It does. I thought the same thing.
I had an ex-girlfriend with a Harry Nash.
No.
This movie is bringing out the worst in all of us.
Entertain me, movie.
But he's defending a client who is kind of like a typical sleazeball client. Ed Harris is in the opening defending him against murder charges, and it turns out that guy is a journalist.
Yes.
That whole transition was beguiling. It was so weird.
They described his character in one sentence, and they called him like an adventurer, reporter, journalist, globetrotting.
And he's been on trial for murder 6 times, I think they say at some point.
I didn't hear that.
Maybe I got that wrong. Maybe I'm inserting drama into this. But yeah, that guy, he's up for murder and he ends up being acquitted. Ed Harris has this whole, well, what am I doing getting all these sleazebags off? Maybe I should just quit. At the after party, after the not guilty verdict, the lady comes up who's name apparently Sally kind of walks up to him and they kind of, I would say, begin a tryst, but he invites her out to dinner and she's like,
no, let's go back to your place.
And they do,
and they met for 30 seconds. It was
and so he's and that do we want to talk about locations at least? So this movie actually takes place in Portland, and it's mentioned as Portland, and it doesn't really have a reason to be here, but it is
so
part of the story.
Setting up the Portland aspect. So this movie was based on a novel by, I believe,
Philip Margolin, who does a lot of crime thriller novels.
Yeah, and I looked up his bio, and he was actually an attorney here in Portland for like 20 years.
Oh, interesting. He was in the movie too. He was jury foreman.
I noticed that. Yeah,
I didn't notice that.
Not that we would have been able to pick him out from jury foreman number 4,
right? Or crazy Ethel or whatever, whoever was listed in the credits that we still don't know.
A movie, I think.
Yes, Crazy Fat Ethel was the movie.
I wish we were watching that.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, go watch Crazy Fat Ethel. It's a much more satisfying bad movie.
What were we talking about?
Portland in this movie.
Portland.
Oh, right.
In this
Philip Margolin, right. He was I don't know if he's still based in Portland, but he's still writing books.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
and he is of note, like Sue Grafton type, does a lot of the legal thrillers and stuff like that. I remember hearing of him when I was growing up. So he's not just a Portland person, but
right.
Yeah.
So anyways, they kept with that storyline, and it is set in 1987 Portland. So we really get some really cool shots of what Portland looked like in 1987.
Yeah, I loved. Now I didn't look up any of those locations. Where was his loft? His loft was amazing.
I don't know if they actually filmed it where they were setting it up from the outside shots.
It always looked like there was something outside. I mean, I guess I could have faked the background, but I always thought I saw the buildings in the background
through the windows. Yeah.
So the entrance to his apartment was in what is currently the Mercy Corps building on Ankeny, like under the Burnside Bridge.
That makes sense.
Oh yeah. Because they walk downstairs and talk in front of the Skidmore Fountain and
right. But I don't think that is the where it was
inside. Okay, yeah.
I think
it looked like they were much taller buildings.
Somewhere
on the
closer to Pioneer Square, where you could see that building.
That's what I thought.
The same one that Brendan Fraser could see.
Yep, exactly.
Where the Fox Tower is now.
Right.
Oh, that was probably the building before the Fox Tower then.
Oh, could be.
Well, do we have pictures? Do we have screenshots to look at? Would you want to do that or not?
We will.
As Mark has a panicked look on his eyes. Well, what other... Should we wait for the screenshots or talk about something else, or just
talk about something else?
Okay. Well, in that same shot where we're setting up his apartment, he has like a Max line that runs right by there. And did you? I love seeing the advertisements along the Max train as it goes by. It was like, "Wake up with Craig in the morning."
Oh, nice!
I have no
the
idea
wacky
who
morning show
Craig was in 1987 in Portland.
That's funny. There was a Rebecca Webb listed as the newscaster in this, and I think she was a newscaster and journalist back then because that name sounds very familiar to me.
Huh.
Yeah.
So
this was her only movie credit.
Yeah, I looked that up, and sadly, this was her big. So this movie actually was directed by this guy named Roger Spottiswoode or something like that, who has directed tons of stuff, including Air America with Robert Downey Jr., Turner and Hooch, Sixth Day, Tomorrow Never Dies, and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. So he's still, I think, currently working, and so it wasn't a badly made film.
No,
it
wasn't badly acted.
No,
it wasn't a terrible script. It just wasn't terrible.
Was it good? Am I being too hard on it?
No, I think it was good.
I think that's what this is, because even between the first and second viewing, which is for me like about a week and a half, I couldn't remember a thing about it.
I know what's happening, Todd, is like your body doesn't know how to process a good movie.
We've watched so many bad ones. I don't know what to do.
What is this feeling?
I don't know what category to put this in. I did really love maybe I can bring it up here, the Lorimar video intro music, which this classic not VHS, but it just sounded like that.
It sounds like VHS.
Let's see if I can bring it up here.
And that is my new ringtone.
That is a nice ringtone. It's nice and gentle. I think the interesting thing about this is that it was made for HBO. It didn't seem all that explicit. There is a little bit of nudity, but there's not a lot of cursing. There's not, and the way it seemed odd. It seemed more of a USA Up All Night type thing.
So that's funny you mentioned that. One of the few notes that I actually wrote down is that the HBO movie of then feels like the Lifetime movie of now.
It really does. And I thought that was super interesting because there were clearly they're showing other movies that have cursing and nudity and stuff like that.
That's not to say that this is without nudity.
No, there is nudity there, and super weird nudity, because there are a couple sex scenes, but a lot of it's just implied, or you see they're all covered, and it's like the second or third little scene between them, and again,
by that point you're like, oh, I know what kind of movie this is. We're not going to see anything. By that point,
and they kind of embrace, and then they afterwards, as they're laying there, a plot thing develops, and he starts verbally accosting her, and as he's shouting and screaming at her, that's when we see her topless laying there.
No, it's not sexy anymore.
It was such a weird choice, and I wonder if it was just playing on her vulnerability at the time to make us, but it didn't seem that well done.
Kind of felt a little uncomfortable.
But it was really weird after like 3 sex scenes. The first time they show nudity is like when he's shouting at her, which was really strange.
Yeah. So you mentioned videotape. We should let people know how we were able to watch this movie and what is their best shot for watching this movie.
Well, why don't you take that, because you were responsible for hunting this down.
I did. So it was released widely on VHS. You can get copies on eBay, on Amazon. I think someone has even made a DVD transfer that you can buy. And if you look hard enough, you might be able to find it online.
Would that copy be so bad it's hard to look at the beautiful Portland city at night because you can't see anything?
Yeah, that was it. So it kind of has that neo-noir feel to this movie.
Yeah, lots of establishing shots of like the riverfront with the city behind it, and like that noirish saxophone music.
It feels gritty and dark. It takes place in the 80s, but it's kind of got that old gritty Portland vibe to it, and they really play that up.
Another thing, you mentioned that it feels kind of like a Lifetime movie, and that's kind of what I thought too, but it occurred to me that I think, and I don't watch a lot of Lifetime movies, but I think what differentiated this is, so our main character, whose name was Sally.
Harry Nash.
Harry Nash and Sally something or other. Describe her character. Mark, why don't you take a swing at this? Like we described the other guy as a brash lawyer, a winning lawyer. Yeah. So describe her character.
There's so little to get a hold of. She starts our first introduction to her. She's very like snappy and comebacky and has an edge to her, and then that edge just falls away, and she's just like present, but she's there. She's not present.
She's like at one point.
She's like a prop.
She's like a prop before he even knew her name. And this was toward the end of the second time I watched this. I just asked myself, why should we be rooting for her?
No,
like she is the main female character. We know nothing about her. She doesn't exist outside of the two men. I mean, I'm no big Bechdel test thing.
Yeah, I was just
but she literally does not exist outside of her relationship with Ed Harris and her husband, who is the guy on trial for murder.
Do we know what she does, what her occupation or career is? Yeah, no, we get none of that.
No.
She's very...
She gardens.
She does garden. Her house is beautiful. Oh, her grandpa's house, I guess. She is moving out for some reason.
Built it.
Yeah. I kept thinking that they'll introduce her as the journalist or her as the scrappy whatever.
No.
Nothing. She's sitting at home doing laundry once.
And then lamenting the fact that her husband has been, charged with murder.
Yeah, because the bummer...
She's really passionate about that.
And the reason she wants him to be acquitted is because if he is guilty, she can't leave him.
Right.
She'll have to stick around for some reason.
That was the worst excuse ever.
Yeah.
Of course you'd leave him.
Right.
Why wouldn't you?
So
that's the best excuse. I'm leaving you because you
you are a murderer. You'd think if you have one out, that would be it.
Yeah. Okay, so I have some photos.
Okay.
Let's talk locations. We need a jingle for locations.
Locations. Yeah, if you guys are singers, send us in a little sting that we can drop in for locations. Okay, so the one thing I kept excitingly writing over and over in my notes was Whore Alley, where all the prostitutes live. This isn't it yet. But where was that location? Was that like right by Voodoo Donuts?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's down by Skidmore Fountain there, right?
But it was different than this. I mean, this shot is
so
where
this is
Ed
on the
Harris
other
lives.
right, and this is the other side of the tracks from Ankeny. I think it was Ankeny Alley where the
where Whore Alley is.
So today you would go there, you would find tourists and donuts.
Yes, that's what I thought. It did look cool. This movie, it looked like a seedy underbelly.
Right.
Oh, there's the rappers.
The rappers.
I have that marked. I'm gonna go find the rappers.
Did you look them up on IMDb?
I did not.
Oh yeah, I looked them up and I tried finding them. So one of them was named Ursus Strode, which
bold name choice.
Right. I think that translates into strong bear.
Nice.
And then the other one was Devon Poe. And
I wonder if they were just street performers that were.
Well,
although that seems.
Yeah, in the credits, their credit is like the rapper. They're isolated from the rest of the credits. So
interesting.
So Googling their names, one of them went on to go to prison for drug trafficking.
Oh no!
And the other moved to Atlanta and opened a recording studio.
Oh.
Mixing studio.
Okay.
So I think that's them. I can't be 100% sure.
All right. Well, here, why don't you guys talk about that location while
I think it's the South Park block.
Yeah,
somewhere.
I think I would agree.
Okay.
South Park blocks.
So here's a little bit.
They're rapping in front of a Benson bubbler.
They are. So I'm gonna play that little bit here.
Okay.
I have that. So it's cutting from Ed Harris and what's her face talking about something or other.
Sally.
Harry is meeting Sally here. Oh, come on here.
We can't be seen together. We can't touch.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, good grief.
You understand?
These are not the rappers.
This is not making sense to me.
Oh, here we go. Anyway, I thought that was an odd choice for the middle of this movie.
The way that they're perched over the Benson bubblers reminds me of those birds, the drinking birds. It looks like they're just gonna bend over and start
bobbing up back and forth.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. This is down by the courthouse.
Right in front of the courthouse.
So the courthouse was a lot in this movie because they did film in one of the courtrooms there. I'm assuming because the weirdest credit of all is one of the guys who played the judges in this movie is named Richard L. Eunice, who was an actual judge here, which is why he's listed as himself in the credits.
Right.
And then the very end of the credits, after this screen full of like special thanks, which is a full screen full of there's a separate one that says, "With deepest appreciation, Judge Richard L. Eunice."
Huh.
And so I wondered if that was because he let them film in his courtroom, or I looked him up and he was just some judge around here. It's not like I thought maybe he was like the brother of the producer or something.
This is not the first time that we've seen a judge, Multnomah County judge, play themselves in a movie.
That's right. What was that other one?
I believe it was Total Reality.
I think you're right.
And it was Philip Roth's father.
That's right, because that's the play. It looked like a newspaper bullpen from like the 1950s in that little room.
Okay, so Hawthorne Bridge.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of from the waterfront shots, which
I
looked
didn't
nice.
include it in these screenshots, but there was that classic scene that shows up in a lot of Portland movies where they are driving on the Hawthorne Bridge, and then you see the other bridges like through the beams.
That
so
is
at
another
least one of those was the Broadway Bridge because it was looking over to the steel bridge.
To the steel bridge,
right? And if you look closely, you could see. I keep wanting to say Christina Aguilera, Angelina Jolie, standing atop the Broadway Bridge.
Now I'm just gonna picture Christina Aguilera gyrating on top of the Broadway Bridge, like in her Dirty video,
like a genie in a bottle.
Is this the
The courthouse.
That's the
I'm
courthouse.
guessing,
Yeah, we usually don't see it from that high.
yeah. Some more South Waterfront.
South Waterfront, yeah.
Lots of South Waterfront in this one. I wish I knew where that house was.
Yeah,
that she was
it
in.
looks,
Yeah,
it's in
somewhere
the spirit of the
expensive.
Pittock Mansion,
but in a neighborhood.
In a neighborhood,
it has a vibe to me of something up on Tabor, but I don't think it's there.
Yeah. That house was nice too. I thought for a second that was the house from the end of Homer and Eddie,
right?
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
I was gonna be so excited.
Let's check in on Facebook, Mark. Is anybody commenting? Maybe anyone?
Jake's
knows
is in here a lot. It's mentioned as a plot point as well.
Yeah.
Nick's mom, Darlene, is listening.
Oh, hi, Darlene.
Hi, Darlene.
Pam Wynn and Amy Miller says, Alexis, get out of here with your hate. Oh, sorry. I don't know what that was, but I should probably screen these before I read them. Yeah.
Screen with your eyes, Mark, not your mouth.
Ron Burgundy over there. And go F yourself, San Diego. Wait.
And I'm Ron Burgundy.
So let's set up, I guess, we set up the premise a little bit, but basically this guy is accused of murder, the murder of a prostitute who is Sally's husband. They're going through a divorce. They're separated, going through a divorce. They call in Ed Harris to defend the husband.
Yes.
While Harris and Sally are having an affair.
Yes.
So that's the whole central thing, is they have to keep it secret because it's an obvious
conflict of interest.
Yeah. Even though they have no problem walking around the waterfront in broad daylight, hugging and kissing outside of the restaurant.
And they have these conversations early in the film, like, if we're going to continue this, we can't be seen. And they make a big deal about it. And then just in the open, they're making out.
Yeah, and not just like having a client meet with they're hugging and kissing. My favorite part is the first time when he comes over to her house. I think that's when she's folding the laundry or she's packing up, getting ready to move, which they never even give her character enough to tell us why she needs to move.
I thought it had to do with the fact that she was in the process of divorcing her husband.
I guess, but if it's her grandfather's house, why would he be anyway? Anyway, they're sitting
he's
there.
Being accused for murder. Like, odds are you're going to keep the house.
But they're sitting there and she's like putting away this laundry and he's kind of picking up some stuff and he picks up a stuffed bird, not like a stuffed animal, but like a taxidermied, like real life bird that's kind of mounted on a thing.
Really? I thought it was a wood carving.
I don't know. It looked like and so he's like, "What's this?" And she's like, "Oh, I made it." So, there's a character. Yeah, so she has a character. But I was like, how did you taxidermy this? What did it wasn't like a clunky like craft thing. It was like what a bird in a museum display would
look
like.
They never gave a close up or any detail or any.
No, it does come back toward the end where there's a montage of Ed Harris lamenting things.
Oh, right.
He does bring the bird out and at least look at it. But I thought that was so funny. Maybe that's her job. She makes those birds for the Natural History Museum. I want that to be her character.
Todd will write the backstory for all of the characters.
It's the Rogue One of Last Innocent Man, where she finally gets the story.
Yeah, Laura online shares that. So the writers didn't really think through the storyline. That is true.
That is true.
Did we finish going through the locations?
No,
you derailed that.
I keep derailing it.
What is the name of that round restaurant on the waterfront?
I think hasn't it changed a couple times, and now I'm never sure what to call it.
Yes.
Probably.
What?
I guess we can just look it up.
It was that chain that was part of like owned by the same people as Stanford's.
Yeah. Are we bad Portlanders for not knowing this?
Well, I feel like it's more of a touristy thing. Like, we don't actually go there, but now we're all...
Oh, it is McCormick and Schmink's.
Oh, it is?
Harborside at the marina. So it has been that way for a long time, I guess. I just thought it had closed down or changed hands a couple years ago. So also in this movie is our two...
sorry. Let's
I am
just look
so
at
bad.
some.
I'm going to push my microphone away.
No,
You guys continue.
yeah. So this is that same shot with the Max going by, down by Saturday Market.
Oh, you're right. Wake Up with Craig.
There it is. Wake Up with Craig.
And the East Portland Motel.
Sadly, no longer in existence.
Yep.
That's where that's the one where the murder takes place.
Yeah, the Top Hat is where murder takes place.
There was a lot of 82nd.
Do you think that was 82nd? I wondered if it was North Interstate.
I guess it could also be.
Yeah, the Sands shows up in a drive-by, which is North Interstate.
Oh, okay.
But it's only in the drive-by, and yeah, I tried to find Top Hat.
I'm gonna talk about what's going on in the little picture view here.
Oh yeah.
This is the reverse enhance scene. You know, most movies where they go enhance and the picture gets better, but they're just like zooming in and it gets
more
blurrier
and more pixelated.
Yeah. I love that.
I think that was supposed. I mean, in 1987, I think that whatever they were doing in there, they never explained what that picture was doing. Was probably very exciting to see that computer action in 1987.
Right.
It's very futuristic.
They had everyone's driver's license scanned.
I felt like a lot of the themes, because it turns out, well, no, sorry, we're going through locations.
Yeah, let's see. Every time we try this, let's try that. There we go. And
that's
Horror Alley.
Horror Alley,
also known as Ankeny. Right across the street from Dan and Louie's Oyster Bar.
This is the enhance. Nice.
That was probably the clearest skyline that we got. The rest of them were all at night, and you could see were like lights in the buildings, but you couldn't actually see the outline of the buildings at night.
Is that Starks?
I didn't know. It just said vacuums, and so I threw it in there. It's kind of blurry, so it's hard to tell.
Down in the South Waterfront area.
Yeah, we almost got the same shot in what's the Tanya Harding Breakaway, when she was talking with her trainer.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Some nice waterfront.
Yeah, I think that's taken from that restaurant that they were eating at.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wentworth Chevy was kind of part of Horror Alley, although that's where the big shakedown with the pimp happened.
There was a little bit of geography mashup going on, yeah.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you cannot get to Idaho via the Columbia River, correct? The Columbia River takes a turn north in the middle of Washington State through Tri-Cities.
Right.
Because at one point they're like, I'm going to get on a barge and we're going to Idaho
2 weeks.
For 2 weeks on the Columbia River. I mean, I know that's sort of nitpicking, but I just thought that was strange that they thought they were going to end up in Idaho.
I mean,
George Washington.
It totally goes into Idaho, but you have to go through Washington first.
Oh, does it go back over to northern Idaho?
It goes into Washington, and then it goes into Idaho.
That's the Columbia there?
I'm pretty sure.
Or the freeway. No, I guess it does.
All right.
Wow,
we're learning
me
geography.
Wrong.
Oh, wait.
Uh-oh.
No, so it branches off, and that becomes the Snake River.
Yeah, the Snake River's in Idaho.
Right, and then the Columbia just goes straight
to Canada.
To Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so that was nitpicky, but I just thought that was funny.
Oh, and that's all the photos we got.
That's all
okay.
the
So
photos.
now you can talk about things that aren't the locations.
What do you want to talk about next?
I did pinpoint a spot where the Mark character.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Newport Bay. Laura reminded us. Newport Bay was the restaurant.
Right.
That's the chain I was trying to remember.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Oh, it's still Newport Bay.
So here, it's still Newport Bay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of courtroom. There's a courtroom drama. So every 5 minutes we're in the courtroom again during this big trial. And they're getting various characters to come. And they get this woman who is a fabric expert who became so oddly hostile. And the way she corrected it reminded me of you, Mark. So let's listen to a little bit of her.
Paring knife, just in case.
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
This isn't quite it yet here.
No further questions, Your Honor. You've testified that the fiber found on Marge Hirsch's sweater was similar to the fibers in the tan jacket belonging to Mr. Stafford. By similar, do you mean identical?
No, sir. The sample consisted of a single fiber.
A thread?
A fiber. A thread is made up of many fibers.
She was oddly hostile for a fabrics expert.
Like everyone knows that.
A fiber is made up of many. Oh no, a thread is made of many fibers. That made me laugh.
What are the chances that was Crazy Lucy?
No.
Let's.
I like how excited we got about that. So Crazy Lucy, we were looking through the credits on IMDb.
Let's talk actors.
And the very last person listed is an actress named Nanette Renee Blakely, and her character is Crazy Lucy. And we discovered this right before we went on, and none of us know who that is.
So what during the dramatic theatrical presentation in the courtroom, when they bring in the stupid thing and the stuff and they turn off the lights, and it just farcical that this would ever take place in a courtroom. And
yeah, they recreate the crime scene with actual props and doors and
the whole
settings and lighting.
So the whole gist is there's a they go to Whore Alley, they pick up a prostitute and go to a hotel room. The prostitute gets murdered, a cop rushes in. The cop also gets shot. The cop looks behind him to see the murderer, who has this big blonde curly hair, and IDs him that way. So they arrested the guy.
But he's backlit.
But he's backlit, standing in the door of the hotel. So in the middle of this trial, Ed Harris brings out
recreates the motel in the middle of the courtroom
out of community theater backdrops, and wheels in the door, and then they put a light up in a courtroom full of windows in the middle of the day to recreate this. And so then they
have the grand reveal, and it's Crazy Lucy.
That
you think so?
That has to be it.
That's my guess, because
they turn the lights on. They're like, but this was a woman. He said it was a man, to show that you couldn't see the face. And that's should we spoil the twist of this movie, that it was some sort of setup?
Yes.
Question mark?
It was the reporter all along.
The reporter from the beginning, who had been arrested for murder 6 times, for some reason set up the husband.
Because they were best friends and they had a fight.
Wow, that escalated quickly to I'm going to set you up for murder.
Yep.
So he orchestrates the original. What's the original bad guy's name? The journalist. He's an Englishman.
Jonathan.
Oh, John Galt. Yeah, which is
Atlas Shrugged.
Now, I've never read Atlas Shrugged, so I don't know anything about it. But that's the main character, right? Do we think that means anything?
That was my first. It struck me. I was like, oh, they're calling him John Galt.
Right.
Okay.
So I didn't know the philosophy behind Atlas Shrugged, to wonder if it played into this at all.
No.
If there was any sort of rugged individualistic message we were supposed to glean from the John Galt character. But it turns out, John Galt has a fight with his best friend and sets him up. So his whole plan was to murder the prostitute and make it look like the friend did it, right? So that hinged on not only murdering the prostitute, but hoping that the cop, played by Bruce McGill, who was on MacGyver, he was MacGyver's sidekick. I forget his character's name on MacGyver, but so he plays the cop, rushes in to see the prostitute dead, and gets shot himself, and turns around to ID him. Was it part of John Galt's plan for the police officer to rush in and see him at just that angle, and for all of these things to happen? That's absurd. He brought I brought a wig.
So I think it was all of that, in addition to the fact that I think he does also get off on killing people.
Yeah, that came up later too. And this movie, I think, was supposed to be, I guess it came out in 87, and a lot of it, I guess not a lot of it is about it, but suddenly, about 3/4 of the way through, everybody starts peppering the wife, Sally, about rough sex and being slapped around, and that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And in fact, and I'm going to bleep this for the for the podcast, so I'm sorry for those of you that are listening live.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. Even though we said this was made for HBO, but there's not a lot of cursing. There wasn't any nudity. It didn't seem like an over-the-top, we're getting away with this, except for all of a sudden when Ed Harris is kind of talking to Sally, kind of getting her prepared for being on trial. Let's see if I can find it. This is where they're having lunch in the middle of public at the restaurant. So yeah, this is at a restaurant. So let's.
In order to come.
Oh, so that's the part I didn't want to play. I'm glad I stopped right there.
Did he say I'll order the cum?
No. So again, mark down where we are so I can take this out later. One of the perks of listening live on the Facebook live feed. So they're having lunch. He's kind of showing her the ropes. This is what it's going to be like when you're on the witness stand.
He'll throw you a few softball questions, try to get you to loosen up, be comfortable.
And then?
Then she'll accuse you of lying. She'll start asking you about your sex life with your husband.
That won't be much of a story.
That's what she's going to want to show, that he had kinky tastes. You rebuffed him, he had to go elsewhere to get it. I mean, did he ever tie you up? Did he ever hit you? Spank you? Did he have to hurt you in order to come?
Like, that came out of nowhere. There hadn't been any implications of anything like that. No bad language, none of that. And all of a sudden, they're having dinner in the middle of a restaurant, and that comes out of his mouth.
And he wasn't being discreet about the way he was talking to her either. It was to the point where after he finished talking, you thought that the other people were going to turn around and start looking at their conversation.
Like in Harry Met Sally.
Exactly. I'll have what they're having.
But it escalated so fast and so oddly out of place for the rest of the movie. It was just kind of shocking, I thought.
It did its job. It shocked you.
I guess. This movie is all about pushing conventional buttons. But I think that aspect of it, the S&M aspect, was probably a bigger deal back in 1987. So I think that probably, if you were a viewer back then, probably upped the drama a little bit or the titillation or...
All you had to do was say it back then. Well, now we would have to see it.
I guess, but I mean, I'm wondering kind of why this movie? Like, I get, if it was a book, I get why that would make more sense, but there didn't seem to be much to make a movie out of, I guess. So I'm trying to think of like, well, maybe that was part of the appeal or something. I don't know. This movie was baffling to me.
Yeah, it seemed like the whole S&M component of the movie was talked about a couple times, but never foundationally established or like was like a real component of the, and it could have been because of the ultimate plot of the guy who actually did it. That was his thing,
right?
And so,
which is
my favorite part was when the prosecutor was grilling her on the stand about it, and she's like, engage in S&M, and Sally says, I don't know what you mean. Yeah, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
I think you do.
That other lawyer, she was great in this movie.
Monica.
Yeah, she was awesome. I think you do. Objection. Withdrawn.
So let's talk about the actors, all of the actors in this movie.
Okay. Starting at the very top with Meshach Taylor. Now, you didn't, I know. I was so excited in the opening credits. I was like, Meshach Taylor. Those of us who are a little older will remember him from Designing Women and the Mannequin movies. He played Hollywood in the Mannequin movies. He had the zany sunglasses.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He played two flamboyant gay men, different roles, heterosexual man married with children. Oh. And he was most people's introduction, I think, to gay characters, like through that stuff, which is crazy to think. Anyway, so Meshach Taylor. So,
in an effort to find something interesting about this movie to talk about, I went through and looked at the IMDb page for every single listed actor in this movie.
Wow.
And what I found, other than the fact that this movie could have been called Character Actor, the Movie, Because that's who everyone in this movie is, besides Ed Harris. Everyone else is like a character actor, and they've been in 100 things, and you probably don't recognize their face.
Right. There were a lot of people I thought I recognized in this. Well, let's start with the main. So the main actress, she does get above the title billing.
Okay, Roxanne Hart.
Yeah, like she was a draw or something.
I'd never seen her before.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had neither. I wondered if she was anything anything.
She's still acting.
Wow.
Yeah.
She was
like
decent.
NCIS kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Like the police procedurals. Well, for having a character with no characteristics, I thought she did a fantastic job.
She's the Ultima of actors.
Just reliable. Will always work.
She was in Walker, Texas Ranger.
Nice.
Party of Five.
Okay.
All of the stuff that you have never heard of. Oh, that's right. And her other she was the main love interest in Highlander.
Oh, yeah.
That was her claim to fame.
So Bethany asks, it's like you just recognize everybody, but can't quite place them. Unnerving. I didn't ask, made that comment. But Laura asks, was this around the time of Basic Instinct? It seems like they reflect similar sensibilities. And Basic Instinct was what, 92?
91 or 92. Yeah.
It's a bit after.
So 87 was a bit early for that. And
5 years before that.
Yeah.
And so I think it was kind of one of those stepping
pushing
stones.
The envelope of that.
Yeah.
I had an original intro line to this episode that I scrapped because nobody got it or whatever, but I called it like a way less interesting body of evidence, which is another Portland-based movie, but that's the sexual S&M courtroom drama thriller that's also terrible. But I thought that was a funny parallel too, that both these movies came out of Portland.
So, a couple of interesting things I found by looking at everyone's IMDb page.
Yeah.
There were more than one person who had a total of 2 credits to their name. This film and Breaking In.
What?
Yeah. So
also made in 1987, or was that 89? 89.
89. Yeah. So
interesting.
Charles F. Compton was a real estate agent in Breaking In and a clerk in Last Innocent Man. And Kim Singer was anchorwoman in Breaking In and reporter.
She found her niche.
So I wonder,
unless she was an actual
reporter,
that would make sense.
I did think that was really interesting, though.
That's funny.
And then there were several people. So I do want to give a shout out, like you already did, to Crazy Lucy. This is her only film credit.
Out
there somewhere.
What happened to her? I want her to guest on the next episode. We could have her in.
By far, the 2 most interesting people that I came up with. So one was Kurt Hansen, and I've actually met Kurt Hansen. He was in The Goonies. He played Mr. Perkins, who was the land developer, the villain of The Goonies.
Oh, funny.
Who was trying to get the signatures and turn it all into, a golf course.
Wow. That was a big year because I think, wasn't The Goonies 87 as well?
That was 85.
85.
So before this.
But that's what got him this role.
I started looking at his IMDb page, and almost exclusively it's just movies filmed in Portland.
Wow.
And that's where I just stumbled into this rabbit hole of crazy sounding Portland movies. And I think it's enough content that's going to fill this show for the next 2 years now.
Wow.
Nice.
But even better than him was this guy named Russ Fast. And his IMDb page is just, oh my gosh. Okay, so let's just
what did Russ Fast do in this movie?
Okay, so in this movie, Russ Fast, let's see, 1987, he was
the ambulance driver. The ambulance.
I'm trying to remember.
Was there an ambulance?
Oh,
after the murder scene, the body gets taken away.
Okay,
and the crazy hotel owner. What was the deal with that the hotel owner guy? Who was this weird religious stereotype, but also creep.
Yes.
And like it was my theory, because he ends up on the witness stand at some point too, because he was the hotel owner where the murder happened. And the only thing I thought for giving him such a bizarre character was that so we remember that he was actually in the movie before. Because the movie was so uninteresting, we wouldn't have remembered unless he was this bizarre caricature of a person. Oh, Russ Fast, known for Dr. Giggles.
Yes, Dr. Giggles, The Haunting of Sarah Hardy, Breaking In.
Oh my gosh, he is royalty.
He's Portland of the movies. He's our Kevin Bacon.
And because of him, I discovered a movie called In the Line of Duty, Blaze of Glory, starring Bruce Campbell and Lori Loughlin.
Wow. Full House is Lori Loughlin.
Yes, filmed in Portland. So
that is amazing. He was in Brain Smasher, A Love Story.
Yes, just all those movies that we're either have seen or are going to need to see.
Wow.
Yeah. Every single one of those.
And none of these were on, well, most of these were not on our list.
That's right.
Man. And then is he still with us?
If you
he stopped acting in 1997 suddenly.
Oh, that's a good point. Shoot.
I mean, it just has a born date. He doesn't have a
I know.
In IMDb. Well, we wish you the best, Russ Fast. You are Portland at the Movies' best friend.
If anyone knows this Russ Fast, we need to talk to him.
He needs to be.
Probably the best thing on there, though, in 1990, he was in something called The Best Christmas Ever! ! And it is a direct-to-video children's sing-along filmed in Portland.
Oh, wow. I just clicked on the IMDb page.
So I think
We Sings.
I think I know what we're going to be doing this December.
These are the character names. This is our Christmas episode. This is the character names for the best Christmas ever. Poofer, Gusty, Dimpy, Snooter, Thooner, Munchie, Dermy. Wow. Dermy. That's who he played. Russ Fast, Dermy. Maybe he's Dermy the Skinflint or something like that. Wow.
Yeah.
That is pretty amazing. I like how we've just completely stopped talking about about The Last Innocent Man. So what does, Mark, The Last Innocent Man mean? That is the title of this movie.
Of the movie. So the main character, Harry, he struggles with guilt versus innocence and his culpability in the process, because he traditionally he's been the guy that gets you out of trouble,
especially if you're guilty.
Yeah. And so when he was talking to one of the people at the jail, is like, they said that you would get me free from this, and so he starts like with a sense of innocence almost, but he really starts idealism. Yeah, or like
they deserve the best defense, and if not me, who
somebody else is going to do it. And it really starts to weigh on him throughout the movie how he is culpable in this process, and then all of the things that he's doing, he's the least innocent man. This really, the movie title should be The Least Innocent Man. But The Last Innocent Man, I don't understand the last part.
Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, they do end up figuring out that it was all a setup, and that because they bring the pimp of all the prostitutes into the trial.
He was a terrible lawyer, screwing the main witness of his thing, like making all these lies and layers upon layers. He would just, even his altruism, like his idealism, was just bankrupt by the halfway through the movie.
Thankfully, there were no repercussions for him.
Exactly. He walked away with a girl.
They walked down the South Waterfront
to the sunset.
Anyone knows Philip Margolin, then we can ask him.
Oh yeah, he is local.
They did keep the name from the book.
I imagine it's explained in the book a lot more. Else, why would they call it that? What else about this movie? Anything? Oh, did you notice It's bad in a movie when you're looking at the decor in the room that the scene is happening, but at the end, after the trial, and they find the guy who didn't do it. They find him guilty, right?
Yeah.
The husband of Sally with the curly blonde hair. He gets.
We actually don't find out what happens to him in the very end.
I thought, no, the verdict for him was guilty. Oh, well.
Yeah.
But then when
they send an innocent, he's the last innocent man, I guess, and they convict him, and so Ed Harris goes to the house of the English journalism guy, Jonathan Galt, and unravels the whole story. It's been him the whole time. Jonathan Galt comes in and just tells him everything, saying you can't do anything about it because of attorney-client privilege, which the legalities of which seemed awful simple in this. But right. I don't know how those work. So then Ed Harris has another crisis of conscience, tells MacGyver's Bruce Gill he really did it. I don't know what to do with this information. I'm going to be disbarred, blah, blah, blah. And then what happens? Oh, then there's a shootout.
Right.
Bruce McGill from MacGyver dies.
Yes.
Yep.
And then Ed Harris is going to shoot the English journalism guy.
Because he's got Sally tied up
as a hostage.
And they tumble down the stairs.
And we see Ed Harris pull the trigger and we hear a gunshot.
Right.
As it fades to black, we don't see the body. And then they're in court again.
Because now I think they're putting...
Nash is on the stand.
So he shot Nash, but just
it's
not
a new trial. No,
enough?
Nash shot Jonathan.
He didn't shoot him. He just pulled the trigger and probably
because it faded to black and it implied that he shot him at the bottom of the stairs and was like gonna do something or other.
Yeah, so what I took from it was that he didn't kill him, and that trial we saw at the end of the movie was the new trial for Jonathan Galt.
Okay, right. To actually go to jail then.
Right.
Okay.
But then we didn't find out whether or not that Sally's husband was
whatever
freed
happened to him.
Yeah, just not the last innocent man was never heard from again.
Was never heard from.
Perfect.
They did. I was gonna say they dump it in the river, but there is a reference in this movie where like we can't just dump him in a bog. We can't. If we were anywhere else, we would dump him in a swamp. But this is Portland. We have to be more creative than that. Do you guys remember that?
I remember that.
They're trying to figure out how to dispose of a body. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. So, would you recommend this to someone?
Boy. You can't find it anywhere, I guess. And what if you liked legal dramas?
It was fine.
It wasn't bad, I guess.
It was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. I'm with that.
Well, that was arousing.
Sorry.
Yeah. If somebody's watching it in the next room while you're walking in and out and doing your laundry, then...
Or if you just want to recreate that sensation.
Recreate that feeling without actually having to do the laundry.
If you're at home for the night and you're by yourself and you would like to pretend like you're watching a movie with someone, then you could just put this on.
There you go. You want to pretend... This is like the cat lady putting on videos of cats.
This would be the perfect movie for your pet. You know, prop your cat up on the couch, turn this movie on, do the laundry.
It thinks something is happening.
And then check in on your cat and be like, hey, how's it going? You enjoying it? What's Ed Harris doing now? Have they had sex yet?
Is he going to verbally abuse her again? And then walk around shirtless in jeans? There was a lot of shirtless Ed Harris walking around in jeans. I did like the movie poster. The cool painting ones is just him in a white business shirt and tie, but with jeans. So that's he was a little bit
business, a little bit casual.
Reminds me of the host of Double Dare. What was
Mark
Summers, super
rocking the jeans with a tucked in dress shirt. All right, final thoughts on this.
This is going to be one that we quickly forget about.
Yes.
In a year's time, we will not remember this movie, as the world has already forgotten it.
We'll just remember Ed Harris made a courtroom movie.
Some things should best left be forgotten.
Yeah.
What is that a quote from?
I don't know.
Some movie.
This podcast. this prison sentence of a podcast we've stumbled into. Well, that brings us to what will happen next month on Portland at the Movies, and you haven't told us yet, Mark. So why don't you tell us what we'll be watching next week or next month?
It's just another quiet American town smack in the middle of Heartland, USA, but their innocence is shattered one day when two crazed gunmen from the city ride into town looking for trouble.
Ooh.
They find it as they terrorize the locals, pillage the town, and murder the police. The urban scum think they've made a clean getaway, but soon find themselves on the run from an entire community that's armed, angry, and out for blood. Leaving a trail of bodies in their wake, the desperate men finally storm a farmhouse and take a young girl hostage, which pushes the people of Vernonia right over the edge. Never has revenge been so ultimate as in the 1989 cult classic, The Vernonia Incident.
Wow.
I am so happy, Mark. This is one of my favorites. I've seen this.
Have you seen this?
Yes.
Is this going to be a good movie?
This is going to be entertaining.
Have you seen the 90-minute behind-the-scenes video?
Yes, I have.
Should I watch?
I have that too.
Should I watch that before the movie or after?
No,
the movie?
After.
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm excited.
So I haven't seen either.
Okay.
I've just downloaded both the movie and the behind-the-scenes movie.
So you know what's funny is back when we started this podcast, however many years ago, this was one of the first movies I suggested we watch, and I already sent you guys a download link.
Oh, nice.
Well,
Nice.
is this movie available anywhere?
Yeah, there's if you search for the Vernonia Incident, you can
Find links to
you
it.
can find links to it on a website. You can pay $3 and watch it.
Okay. So it is available then.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, because I was when I listened to my other movie podcast.
This movie Vernonia Incident is at Movie Madness.
Oh, of course it is. Movie Madness. I was just talking about Movie Madness yesterday with someone about how literally some of the only place we can find most of these movies has been on VHS at Movie Madness, which is pretty amazing. One other thing I noticed in the credits for this movie was a special thanks to Judy Garland and her estate. So at some point there must have been a picture, a song, a something. Wow. It was not listed like where the song credits were. It was right after that with deepest appreciation to the judge and special thanks to Judy Garland and her estate.
Wow.
So I thought that was really strange. There must have been some piece of intellectual property that ended up in there that they had to get clearance rights for. But yeah, that was the most entertaining part of the movie, was trying to figure that one out. You can find us now on Patreon. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that, Brian?
That's right.
That's right, Todd.
If you like what you hear and you would like to make us suffer by watching more terrible movies filmed in Portland, you can pledge on our Patreon page. And for just whatever pledge level you are comfortable with, $1 a month, $2 a month, every little bit helps. A lot of times we do have to track down these movies from other countries on VHS, and then we have to pay to have them transferred to a PAL format.
All to end up watching Fatal Revenge.
Right. We discover this crap, so you don't have to. And
right now, not only do we watch terrible movies, we do it at a net loss. So we would like maybe to change that. And there are more exciting projects and equipment we'd like to get for that to make it sound and look the best that we can.
That's right. We're in the process of launching our very own original web series.
That's right, which should be up if you're listening to right now. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, but if you're listening in the future, do check it out on YouTube.
And we are nominated for the Portland's Best Local Podcast on Willamette Week's Best of Portland.
We are
2018.
Very important.
And so I just put a link in the Facebook page in the feed here for this video. Just click on that link or go to portlandatthemovies.com/vote. And vote for us for best local podcast.
Yep, it's free and easy, and you can do it as much as you would like for as many email addresses as you have. And to make I'm going to make a basketball analogy. So you know how the last couple of years have been the Cleveland Cavaliers versus Golden State in the finals, and Golden State keeps winning year after year. It's kind of like this podcast category where there's a perfectly great team that wins year after year, but maybe it's time for someone else to share some of that spotlight. So why don't you think about that and cast your vote accordingly? So speaking of, we are heard on the Fun Employment Radio Network, where you can hear lots of other amazing shows. Greg and Sarah do a daily show that is free for download, but you can also get live stuff and videos and access to archives if you become a Fun Employment Radio supporter. So head over there, look into that. They've got great shows on their network in addition to their own. So check that out. Also, we put these videos up on YouTube. So go to Portland at the Movies on YouTube, and you can see all of the live videos. If you're listening to this on podcast, there is extra content in that because I do edit some stuff out, not a whole lot, just some things here and there. So if you want to see the full things with the horrifying things I did not bleep out from The Last Innocent Man, you can head over to our YouTube channel and see us do the live recording. So other than that, I have nothing else to play, which means I will play the closing credit songs that comes up after The Last Innocent Man. So we will see you guys next time. Thank you for listening. No, I didn't put the right spot. I was just walking out.
Next on Lifetime Special Events. This has been ABC After School Special.